In today's video, I will be showing you exactly how to set up your own LLC. If this is your very first time, it does not have to be complicated. I have a few episodes here on my channel where I walk through the process step by step, whether or not you want to do this through a third-party vendor or if you would prefer to do it on your own through your state's government website. Either way, this video is going to prepare you for what you're going to be seeing and what you'll need in order to create your first LLC. I'll also be adding in a few personal experience tidbits for you to keep in mind because a lot of people sometimes have a lot of fear around starting an LLC because they've never done it before. But I'm here to tell you that you don't have to be afraid, and just know that this is the first step to that financial freedom that you're seeking. So let's assume that you have already chosen what the business is that you are going to do. And even still, if you don't quite have all the details, you don't need a full business plan to create the LLC. You just need an idea and which I'm going to get into the steps here, a business name, and a few other things to go ahead and get started. The rest you can figure out once the LLC has been set up. Me personally, I've started an LLC before, and what I went into it thinking that I was going to do ended up changing very quickly after I established the LLC, which is perfectly normal. It happens all the time. Just know that once you are beginning to do business with this new LLC, that you try to keep it on the same topic or the same general business idea that you had basically going into it. So I'm going to share this article that I found on Forbes.com, and it basically is going through the steps to setting up your LLC. And as I mentioned, step number one is deciding on a business name. I know a lot of people get caught up with this step. Sometimes I see some previous clients, they wouldn't even make it past this step because they put so much emphasis on the business name. Unless you have some sort of aha, moment where the business name just comes to you, or you already came into this having a business name, I recommend you using some very powerful AI tools that are out there. One that I like to use is called namelix.com. And you just kind of insert a general idea of what you want your business to be about or what you're envisioning for the business. And then it will automatically generate a bunch of random names just based on the metrics that you put into the generator. So that's one way that you can decide on a business name. If you are thinking of doing something where this is more of like a generic business and you're using it as an umbrella for several other businesses. I do this a lot with e-commerce clients and with my own e-commerce brands, where I'll just have some sort of umbrella business name so I don't spend too much time on it and it doesn't necessarily take up a lot of brain power for me. That's one option. For you to do is just to establish an umbrella name, or another option is to just use your own name and then add LLC at the end of it, and the rest will be figured out as you go along. You can always establish a DBA after some time. Doing business as is what that stands for, and I have a video here on my channel talking all about what it means to establish a DBA and when it would be necessary. But to start out, I don't recommend it. I think you should just keep it as simple as possible and determining your business name. So that's step number one. Then step number two is to designate a registered agent. A registered agent is just someone who's going to be that person who receives all of your official and legal documents. This is very important when you're establishing an LLC. I, in the past, have used myself for most of my businesses. And then once I've gotten to a point where my business has grown and I no longer want to be the one receiving these documentations, I will go out and search for a registered agent And there are so many businesses that actually this is all they do. So I recommend Googling in your state registered agent near me. If you don't want to start out as your own registered agent and you feel as though it's a little bit too much responsibility, I assure you it's not. However, again, if you've already decided that that's something that you don't want to do, you can hire a registered agent and basically you just pay a small filing fee, and you don't really have to worry about all of those documents coming to you. Starting out, you should expect maybe about 3 or 4 documents per year. And these are just your annual statements asking to record any sort of additions to your business, such as employees and that sort of thing. But once you've gotten to that point, I do recommend hiring a registered agent and then also making sure that you have a lot of the tax and legal things set up and have those in place. So that is step number 2 is establishing your registered agent. Again, you can be your own registered agent or you can hire a company to do so. So we have step 3 here is to obtain a copy of your state's LLC, articles of organization. This is whether or not you've decided to go through your state's website already going to be built into that application, or whether or not you're using a third-party vendor such as LegalZoom or Tailored Brands. Again, this is going to be built into the application process. So when it says to obtain a copy, you're really just filling out the application with the required information. And so that leads us to step 4, where you are going to need to provide the following information: your business name, the address or principal place of business. In a previous video, I talked about the address of your principal place of business. This can be your current address, or it can be something that I like to call a virtual address. And in a previous video, like I mentioned, I walk through step by step on how to do this. But essentially what you're going to do is go on Google and type in virtual addresses near me. You can do virtual business addresses near me. Of course, you'll have to pay a small fee, but if you have decided that you don't want to use your personal address, again, because you're filing an LLC, all of this information will be public on the state's website that corresponds with wherever you are. But again, I've never had any issues with just using my home address, especially if I'm just getting started. The purpose of the business, again, this is all going to be built into the application. And then the way your LLC will be managed: will you be using members? Will you be having founders, co-founders, that sort of thing? And then contact information for your registered agent. So whether or not you've decided to go with yourself or with a third-party company, registered agent company, then this is where you will enter that information of your registered agent. The duration of the LLC, you don't really have to worry about this here because I know on most state websites they don't ask this question. And also on the third-party sites, they're assuming that you have just begun the LLC. So once you've inputted the information into wherever you're filling out your LLC, you can then file the articles of organization. And that basically just means submitting that documentation. You'll wait a few days and you'll receive your document number. And this is important because with that document number, you'll be able to obtain an EIN number, which is going to be required if you are looking to open up a bank account in the States. And now we get to step number 6, which I deem to be very crucial when you are starting in a business with multiple members. The operating agreement is essentially how you and the other members are planning to run the business and manage the business, who owns what percentage amount, and if you were to dissolve the business, how were you guys going to do that? If you want to add new members or remove members, how are you going to do that? Most operating agreements do not include that information. And from personal experience, I always recommend that you take some time to review whatever operating agreement templates you are able to find, whether it be online or whether it be through one of those third-party companies. It pays for you to take a little extra time and add a few things that you might not be aware of at the moment. And what I mean is, you want to be thinking down the line. I know you're not operating the business at the moment, but just think of a few scenarios or instances or cases where you want to make sure that it's documented in your operating agreement as to what will we do when we cross this line or if we cross this line. You can always change this, so don't feel as though you have to do it at the very beginning. And just know that if you do make any changes to your operating agreement, you will need to get that signed off by all members who have, I believe it is a majority stake in the LLC. And again, speaking from personal experience, this is really what makes or breaks a business in the long run, especially if you have any partners that may have opposing views down the line. But it also, I don't want to scare you because it actually resolves a lot of issues that may come up in the future and in a very amicable way. And lastly, keeping your LLC active. This is why your registered agent is going to be really important. Again, you're only going to be receiving about 4 documents a year, especially if you're just starting out. And depending on which state you're in, it may be a little bit more, it may be a little bit less. But these documents are just making sure that you're staying on top of whatever your state requires you to record in terms of your business growth. And this means employees and revenue and those sort of things. Don't be intimidated by these documents because once you receive them, they're pretty straightforward in terms of what you have to do in order to keep your LLC in good standing. Do understand that starting an LLC comes with a few fees, and a lot of the times what I see clients do, and I'm guilty of this too, is I've started several LLCs and I forget to stay on top of it. But obviously you definitely want to prioritize this for any LLCs that are bringing in revenue, because when it comes time to go to receive any loans or to open up any accounts or just anything dealing with your business and other businesses, you want to make sure that you have an active LLC. So I hope this video was helpful. I have made several other videos doing a step-by-step walkthrough on what the actual application looks like, but this video was more so to help you understand what is required of you in order to even get to the application process and to make sure that this is a good fit for you. I also want to let you know that you don't have to be intimidated by this process at all, because it's not. It's meant to be that way so that it keeps a lot of people away from starting their own businesses and achieving their financial freedom. But just know that it's a lot easier than you think it is. And if you have any questions or comments about this video or about anything that you have burning in your mind that you want to know about, feel free to leave a comment down below. And my goal is to kind of do a Q&A video where I address a lot of your concerns about starting your business, because it doesn't have to be complicated. It's not complicated. They want you to think it's complicated, but trust me, this is the first step to establishing that freedom that we all deserve.